Hey guys, Kevin Shaw here, Editor-in-Chief of Mopar Connection Magazine. First and foremost, I really want to thank all of you new subscribers who have hit that subscribe button and are now following all the videos that we put out here at Mopar Connection. But it's important to know we're much more than just a YouTube channel. In fact, the YouTube channel is really a very small piece of what Mopar Connection Magazine is. We're all former staffers of different Mopar enthusiast magazines. I myself worked at Mopar Muscle Magazine for many years. Many of our contributors and even our tech editor worked for Mopar Muscle Magazine. We have guys who are contributors for other magazines, other Mopar titles. So we're bringing a lot of knowledge in to Mopar Connection Magazine. You can find us every day at moparconnectionmagazine.com, where new articles are written and published every single day, Monday through Friday. That's typically the spiel that I give at the end of every video. But for you guys who are new and just didn't really know much about us, I really want to encourage you to go check us out over at the website itself. The web magazine is 100% subscription free. Don't have to pay for anything. There's no downloads. There's no passwords. You don't have to do any special little tricks to get in. You can simply read the magazine wherever you are, as long as you got a Wi-Fi signal. So definitely check us out there. For today, we're doing a little bit of an update on all of our projects that we've got. We got lots of different engines going on, and I want to share some updates on our 505 that you just saw on the dyno, as well as the 440 for Marsha, our 1970 Plymouth Fury convertible that is currently getting paint and body work by Dave Chamberlain at All Classics Restorations. You're definitely going to want to check out that channel on my left. It should be over here. That's the link to take you over, and there's lots of updates on Marsha over there, so definitely give him a like and subscribe to that channel. And we're also going to give you a few updates on our big 572 Hemi stroker build. It's a slow burn on that one. We got lots of parts that are still coming in. Simply, that's a big budget engine that I don't have the budget for, so we're working really slowly on that one. But we have some updates on this engine over here. So we're going to take you one by one on some of the builds that we have done in recent months and maybe point towards the future of what we got cooking for future car builds and future engine builds. Hey guys, I just want to take a quick minute to let you know that we've got the Mopar Connection store up and running, where you can find all sorts of t-shirts and hoodies in a ton of colors and different sizes. We've even got designs for some of our project cars like Zombie and the Brazen Charger. So make sure to check out the link in the video description below. Okay, so number one, what is the update on our 505 stroker that we just brought back from Tommy's Auto Machine, where we dynoed it and made an awesome 631 horsepower and 659 pound-feet of torque. This is on pump gas, no race gas, on pump gas. As you guys might have seen in the video, there was a couple little snafus that I decided to keep in the video. First, because we're normal guys and there's mistakes that are made. And number two, we wanted to show that some parts, even though they're brand new, don't necessarily work. And if you're one of those unfortunate guys who forked over some good money and the part doesn't work, I want to let you know that there are routes to getting things fixed or just troubleshooting the parts that you had. First, we're very excited with the results that we had. But the results that we got from this engine, we're using a lot of parts that weren't necessarily part of the original build. Top on that list was the carburetor choice. We had brought out our Proform 750, and that simply was not enough for what this engine needed. The big displacement of this 505 needed at minimum 800 CFM. We used the dyno's 850 double pumper, and that was able to feed this engine everything that it needed, fuel and air, when it revved up to 6,000 RPM. Second, we were using a Pertronix electronic distributor. And unfortunately, that ignition system was declining every time we were making more and more pulls. What we found was that, quite frankly, we just had two bad plug wires, our number 1 and our number 8, and those contacts weren't very good. We went through our plug wires, we had to do the ohm test, and we found out that those two were the culprit. It wasn't the distributor itself. So, quite frankly, we could have kept our Pertronix distributor and just changed out the plug wires. We would have been fine. And honestly, we couldn't afford to spend all day troubleshooting our ignition system. We had to get some dyno pulls done on this engine. Lastly, our biggest issue was our rear main seal leak. Besides installing it the right way, we also had a major issue with which seal we chose to use. In our first application, when we showed up at the dyno, I had used a stock replacement rear main seal. This is the black rear main seal, and you can get it from Molly, from Felpro, or any other supplier for a rear main seal. They're all the same thing. But because we were using the high performance billet aluminum rear main seal block from Mancini, which doesn't come with the seal itself, what we found was that we weren't getting enough crush with the rear main seal and the billet block. What was happening was that the factory style rear main seal was sinking too deep inside of that billet block. What we needed instead was Felpro's high compression, high pressure rear main seal. Is that the Felpro seal is a lot thicker and has a far better crush inside of the billet rear main seal from Mancini than you do with the factory style one. We've always used the billet Mancini kit on all of our 440 builds. It gives us the best seal from side to side instead of using those rope style side seals. But the rear main seal itself needed to be the thicker Felpro. So I strongly recommend you guys check this out. The part number itself is 2947. We picked ours up at Summit for just $30. It's worth sealing up that rear main seal and having a dry engine. Ultimately, what that left us with was a fantastic combination, making a strong 630 horse on 93 pump gas that can go in any street car, whether it's a A body, B body, even a C body. If you want to make some big power, have some great torque, and just have something that romps really hard, but you can throw fuel injection on it and fire it up when it's cold or when it's hot, or slap on an 850 double pumper, set that ignition to 38 degrees out, and you're ready to rock. It's a fantastic engine. Unfortunately, I don't really have a home for this, and quite frankly, I'd rather see it in someone else's car. So if any of you guys are interested, please let me know. We might be able to work something out, and you can email me or message me in the comments, or email me at kevin.shaw@shawgroupmedia.com. And maybe we can work something out. I'd love to see this in a car that's ready to run. We might even do a car feature on your car with this engine in it. And of course, we're going to have a full-length feature on it, a full build on it with a complete and total parts list. So for you guys who want to replicate this build or maybe make something similar, we'll have everything over at moparconnectionmagazine.com for you guys to check out in the coming weeks. Next, I want to talk about our giant 572 cubic inch Hemi motor that I'm calling Killer Kong, that's going in our 1969 Dodge Charger RT project car that has been named Project Brazen. You've seen the car a bunch of times. It's my personal car. It's the car that started my whole journey into Mopar, and the final goal for that car has always been a big monster second generation Hemi. And we're working with some amazing people. I'm very, very excited to be working with these guys. And we've been doing short, small little updates. The most recent one that we did was when I picked up this single plane Ray Barton manifold from Chuck Davis up in Kentucky. He was fantastic. He pulled it off of his own engine just to sell it to me. So I really want to thank Chuck again. He's a great guy, and the guy's a finder. If you need a part, you got to hit up Chuck Davis. He's gonna have it, and if he doesn't have it, he'll find it for you. So big shout out to Chuck on this one. Right now you can see we've got a couple parts together on the block. This is our Bulldog iron block that we've got. Right now we've got one cylinder head on with the Ray Barton single plane manifold. But what's really exciting is I picked up a couple things I wanted to share with you guys. First was our ARP bolt kit. We got our bolts so I can get the heads on. These came out absolutely beautiful. You're paying for the best when you buy ARP, and these things come completely sealed and they're ready to go on. A really nice quality piece, and they're going to give you all the assembly graphite that you need to put it together. So we can slap these heads on, but we're not quite there yet. But I'm really excited to have our head stud kit. I got to get a few other part kits from ARP to put this engine together, and then it'll absolutely hold up to the 800 horsepower that we're looking at building out of this engine. So a little bit about that build. First, for you guys who love numbers, I'm keeping the stock deck height at 10.725 inches. Second of all, we had to do a lot of math when it came to ordering a custom set of pistons. We worked with August Cedarstrand and Darius at Ross Racing Pistons to design and order our own set of custom pistons. I have not opened this box yet, and I wanted to do it live. These showed up just a week ago, and it's been several months of ordering these parts, making sure we had the right information, making sure that we had everything that Ross needed to cut us the right pistons. The big thing was, of course, making sure that we knew what the intake drop was, what our exhaust valve drop was, so that they wouldn't collide with the pistons at all. We wanted to make sure that they had everything necessary to go with the rings that we ordered, which were from Total Seal. We'll show you those in just a second. But individually wrapped, holy cow. Oh boy. Here is our pin, our floating pin, totally bagged and sealed. We'll keep that in there. And here, oh boy, are our Hemi pistons. We're a 4.5 inch bore with a 7.100 inch rod and a 4.5 inch stroke crank. We're looking at 4.5 by 4.5. And so that gets us at 572 cubic inches. Look at the dish and how radius it is. This is such a nice piece. You can see it's beveled right through here. We have a really deep valve dish, but it's not a high enough dome that we're going to have too much compression. Our goal compression ratio was 11:1, but we knew we were going to be just a little bit higher than that. So we're estimating around 11.25:1. But this gives us so much room. Look at all of the weight taken out. Huge oiling passages all through here. Really great oiling. Multiple ringlings. This is going to be a fantastic piece. I'm getting my greasy fingerprints all over these beautiful pistons. But man, I cannot tell you how excited I am for these new Hemi pistons. Now, for comparison's sake, this is a little trophy that I've had on my desk for many, many years. This is a top fuel piston. You can see the green coating is a high temperature coating, and it's actually really dusty. It's been sitting on my desk for years. But look at the difference. Here's exhaust side, and intake to intake side. Same bore, same displacement, 4.5 inches, but look at the dome difference. This is obviously a far more aggressive piston. This is a top fuel alcohol piston. This is a pump gas 11.25:1, 11:1 compression piston versus maybe 14:1 compression. So big, big difference. Huge, huge valve reliefs. There's just so much to be studied here. A lot that goes into these designs. Got to give it to the guys at Ross for helping us out with this project. This is something, by the way, the weight difference is just, I mean, this is a, don't get me wrong, this is a nice piece and this makes big power, but this does not have the weight that this does. So this has been really opened up on the inside. You can see this is primarily cast as is. This has gone in, they've machined a lot more, they've cut the reliefs out here, so have a lot less weight. And I wish I had a gram scale. We could do a little bit of a scale comparison between the two. I might have to borrow a scale for a later video. but really excited for this. Really, really cool, really neat. So let's get out our Total Seal rings that we got from Lake Speed and August Cedar Strand at Total Seal. We'll take a look at these just to give you guys an idea of what we're working with. These Total Seal rings are some of the absolute best that they offer. These are a custom sized ring with superior oiling and absolute fantastic gapping on it. We will do a check on our gap and do a little bit of correction if necessary. But their oil control groove rings are some of the best because you live and die by your ring seal, and ring seal is the only way your engine's going to make any sort of power. These are going to be all set up, and when the engine's ready, when we have our connecting rods and our crank ready and we assemble these pistons, we'll be going through and gapping our rings and making sure that everything is optimized for total ring seal. So we definitely have to thank the guys again from Ross Racing Pistons and Total Seal piston rings. Absolutely two of the best names. This stuff is just big power, big compression. We're really excited that we can make a street motor with some of the best names in the business. So what else do we got coming up for our 572 besides the pistons and the rings and the intake manifold that we got already? Currently we're working with Daryl Reed of Reed Racing out in Lake Elsinore, California, who's adapting his top fuel high horsepower roller rockers to fit on a set of standard factory style iron or Edelbrock aluminum heads. In fact, he's got one of our heads from our engine to set things up on. Now, he's obviously working with all these top fuel racers and big horsepower teams, so when that season's over, he's going to be able to spend a little bit more time on this side project. So we're not going to squeeze him any more than what he's doing already. So for Daryl and your team, thank you very much for working with us. We're very excited. That's something the whole aftermarket's going to be able to enjoy once they're out and ready and available to the public. Once we get our cylinder head, our valve train, and our rockers all buttoned up, we'll be able to use our 40 thousandths MLS Cometic gaskets. That's going to put us at the right compression ratio, again 11 1/4 to 1. And then we'll be able to order our custom grind camshaft from Comp Cams. We already have our billet timing set from Comp Cams, and we've already placed the order for our custom grind solid roller camshaft, and that is a intake lift of 704, exhaust lift of 685, duration at 110, and we're looking at a 268 intake by 272 exhaust on that cam. So that's going to be a fantastic solid roller for us. Make some really good power. So that pretty much concludes everything that we have up to date on news for the 572 that we call Killer Kong. You'll see more of that on the channel, and of course it'll be fantastic when the day comes to put that in between the fenders of our 69 Charger. But let's talk about this 440 that we're starting to put together for our 70 Fury convertible that we call Marsha. If you're a subscriber to the channel, or you've already seen the video where we did the ball hone here in the garage on the driveway of this 440 block, we did just get it back from Tommy's Auto and Machine, the same place where we dynoed this engine. And this 440 is really going to be a pretty mild build. We're not doing anything really crazy with it. We want to make a good, reliable 400 horse and just have something that turnkeys, fires up, and we can go cruise and maybe do a couple burnouts in our Fury. First, we had them hot tank it, clean it up, make sure that there wasn't anything in the water passages, had them chase all the threads, press in new cam bearings, press in new freeze plugs. And besides that, we're going to make sure that everything is ready for the bottom end assembly. But before we do that, what we did have them do was go through and polish the factory crankshaft that came out of this 440. Made sure that all the journals were good, nice and clean, that we weren't going to have anything that would mar the bearings. Did a very basic job, very affordable. Actually, all this work that they did just came in a little hair over $300. So if you guys are in the Middle Tennessee area, or you're just looking for a reliable machine shop, Tommy's Auto and Machine is definitely the place to go. Absolutely love these guys. It's where we dyno our engines. It's also where we get a lot of our machine work done. And having a precision machinist go through and make sure your block is right really is the right way to go. This stock crankshaft we're going to use, believe it or not, with the factory connecting rods and the factory pistons. These are the factory pistons that came out of this engine block. You might have saw us pull them out. They looked terrible. But after a good 40 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner with pretty much that cleaner at boiling temperatures, these came out really, really nice. So if you're looking for an ultrasonic cleaner, definitely check out this video that we got linked up here. You might want to go to Summit and grab the same one we did. Obviously, we're going to change out the bearings. In fact, we reached out to our friends at Molly Pistons and got ourselves some Cleveite main bearings and got our Molly rings for our pistons. We're going to re-ring all the pistons, have a nice seal. Again, ring seal makes or breaks an engine. If you don't have good ring seal, you're never going to make any power. So again, we've got new Cleveite main and rod bearings, and of course Molly rings for the pistons. So we're going to have this all cleaned up. We're going to soak these in oil prior to assembly. We don't want to have any debris in there. We want to make sure that everything is nice and clean and well oiled. Then we'll install our new rings. Then we'll do our initial assembly. So why do I say initial assembly? Because we want to put this together, maybe 1 or 2 pistons, and measure how deep in the hole these pistons really are. Right now, our estimation is about 8.8 to 9-to-1 compression. When we do that and we get a good measurement, we'll be able to see how much we want to take off the heads and how much we want to take off the deck to up our compression to about 10-to-1 compression. This isn't a big horsepower maker. This is just something really fun that we can throw the kids in and go cruise for ice cream with the top down. So we've got the crank, we've got the rods, we've got our main bearings, our rod bearings, and our new rings for the pistons. What else do we have for Marsha's engine? I'm glad you asked. We have actually gathered up darn near everything possible to throw this motor together once we have the compression ratio and have corrected the block and the heads to meet it. Number one, we got together with Comp Cams and we got ourselves a new camshaft for it. I'm not real good at ordering what you would call a really mild street cam. All of my stuff is pretty much what many people would call over-cammed. So what I thought was, hey listen, let's just do something the factory did, use a factory style grind, and maybe that'll be enough for just what we're trying to do with this 440. So the camshaft I looked at was the same camshaft grind that came in the 1969.5 A12 code lift-off hood Roadrunner and Super Bee. What that came out to be was a hydraulic flat tappet that effectively was a little bit more rowdy than the Hemi cams, but was still, I would say, streetable. It wasn't anything compared to like this guy or anything that we would dare put in the Charger, but we ended up with 2 different camshaft grinds, one being a hydraulic flat tappet and one being a hydraulic roller. We're going to end up going with the roller, even though the roller is a little bit more aggressive. Why? Well, because a roller is a little bit more forgiving. It can roll up and down those ramps a lot easier and gives us a little bit more duration. So initially, the flat tappet cam that we came up with was a 474 by 474 with a lobe separation of 110. And that ended up coming up to about a 233 by 240 intake to exhaust. That was the initial camshaft. A lot of guys would go, oh man, that's even too rowdy for the street. Well, wait till you hear what we ended up buying. We ended up picking up a 230 by 236, but that maximum valve lift was a 540 by 537 with a lobe separation of 110. Now, again, a lot of you guys might be going, dude, that's a little too crazy. You're not going to like it. It's not going to idle nice. I disagree. But the nice thing is that if it is, it's a camshaft. It's easily changed. But I really wanted that Fury to be able to pull into the parking lot with a little bit of chop, sound really good, be able to burn the tires, but again, have nice creep and be able to creep off the line if I let off the brake, and to be able to cruise at a nice manageable RPM. I think this camshaft will be just perfect for what we're looking to do. With that, that meant that our kit, which we had initially ordered as a flat tappet, meant that the flat tappet kit goes back in the box with our flat tappet lifters and the springs that are rated for that flat tappet. Instead, what that meant was we needed all new valve springs, which we went with Comp's single beehive style spring. We didn't have to go to a triple, didn't have to go to anything crazy. We just went with their beehive style single spring. It's not a double or triple spring. And we've got new steel retainers that are all ready to go with our beehives. And we've got Comp's hydraulic rollers. These are absolutely fantastic. You want to soak them. I typically soak them overnight. You really want to be able to get underneath the plunger, have them nice and filled. You're still going to have to mess with valve lash at initial, and you want to torque them down just another turn. But the same way that we adjusted these on the dyno, these are easily adjusted. So we're really excited about these. I've had fantastic luck with hydraulic rollers from Comp Cams. They've always treated us really good. And if there's ever been a failure, we simply reach out to their customer service, and they've been really good and really responsive about sending out a replacement. So we've talked about the crank, rods and pistons, bearings and rings, camshaft choice, valve spring retainers, hydraulic lifters. What's left? Obviously, we're running a 906 head. We're going to be working with a friend of ours on how to do a basic port match job at home. You don't need to send it out. If you have a Dremel kit and a workbench, you too can do it. We're going to show you how to do that in a couple weeks. And that'll be a great resource for a lot of you guys who've either never done it yourself or just looking for tips. The last bit, of course, is our roller rockers. These are a nice piece, and because roller technology is becoming more and more prevalent, a lot of people are finding that they can get into a good set of roller rockers and roller lifters for a pretty affordable price. Again, a lot of people are concerned with modern metallurgy. So a flat tappet may not be the way to go. And because rollers don't require a break-in, a lot of people are finding that the ease of building a roller motor and the new cost is making things so much easier. In fact, everything that I've built in probably the last 8 years has been a roller motor. I haven't done a flat tappet motor in a really, really long time. These will be fantastic and very easy to assemble. These oil very nicely, and they are adjustable, so you'll be able to adjust for your push rods. A couple final things when it comes to assembling Marsha's engine is we're again not going terribly crazy like we have with our 505 or with our Hemi or even the 535 that's currently in the Charger. This one's meant to just to be a really easy turnkey cruiser. But we did go ahead and get some premier parts. We wanted to spend money where it really counted. Number one was we have a really nice Fel-Pro integrated windage tray and gasket. It's a reusable gasket. It is sealed and it has a very nice seal. We've used these before on other builds. These work great, especially if you're not doing a big stroker, because a stroker might come into contact with that. You don't want any part of that. But this does offer nice windage deflection. You're going to have good oiling. You're not going to be able to whip or aerate your oil. So definitely consider one of these. We will be going with an aftermarket pan. I do want to hold 6 quarts. Not a big fan of just the factory style 4-quart pan. It's not enough oil to keep from losing its integrity and whipping around and being aerated. That's going to give you some oil cavitation, and that can cause failure later. So the more oil that you have in the system, the better the integrity of the oil. And it could be standard off-the-shelf cheap stuff that you get from O'Reilly's, or it could be top-end VR1 2050. You just want to have more oil in the circulation. So that's what we're going to do when it comes to a pan. And with our oiling system, we are going to use the factory oil pump. We took it apart, had everything baked really good in the ultrasonic cleaner. So because we're not going with a expensive aftermarket oil pump, we're not going with a high pressure pump, or we're not going with a high volume pump, but a factory style pump, we want to be able to circulate as much oil as possible. While the name of the game with this 440 build has been spending our money wisely and putting our money really in selective pieces, again, we're not doing aftermarket heads, we're not doing a high pressure oil pump, we're not doing a newfangled oiling system, but we are putting some performance parts where we think they need to be. The one bolt-on part that really has been something very common that a lot of you guys use is going to be our choice of intake manifold. And for intake manifold, we went to Edelbrock and we grabbed ourselves a dual plane RPM Performer. This has been probably the most popular part that a lot of you 440 guys have seen or used yourself. The RPM Performer is literally horsepower and torque out of the box. I mean, it's not going to solve all your problems, but it does a really good job, and I think a lot of you guys can attest to it. This was a no-brainer choice. We used this manifold originally on our 535 when we spun that motor up to making 700 pound-feet of torque. This manifold made that power, and we didn't port match, and those were box stock heads. Today, we're running a single plane manifold, so we might have lost a little bit of torque, but we gained a whole bunch of horsepower, and we had Hughes engines go through the cylinder heads. So again, that engine is very different from when we tested it 10 years ago or 8 years ago, but this manifold still holds true as being one of the best when it comes to a good street dual plane. What's going on top of it? This is the new VRS 4150. It's a 650 CFM. Again, a little bit smaller, but since we're not making big displacement, we're not making big power, we think this guy will do it. And it is insanely tunable. It's one of the best carburetors that we've put our hands on in a really, really long time. We will be able to tune this carburetor and go through its jetting, and we might even show you some tricks and tips when it comes to making sure that this carburetor is able to feed Marsha all the horsepower it needs. So we're really excited about this, and this combination is going to come together, probably be maybe a little bit over 400 horse. We do have a lot of cam, but the biggest things for us was streetability, cost, and reliability. And we think this is going to be one of the best combinations for a streetable, hot rodded 440 that you could possibly put together, and we'll show you guys how with a master parts list later in an article on the magazine itself. With that being said, that concludes a little bit of our teaser of ongoing projects that we have here in the Mopar Connection Magazine garage. Really stoked that you guys hung through to the very end of this video. Really want to thank you all for your subscriptions and your views. If you don't mind, please give this video a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment, tell us about your project builds that you're putting together this winter. And if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos that we put out here at Mopar Connection. Plus, if you want more awesome Mopar content, more articles, car features, tech stories, go over to www.moparconnectionmagazine.com, where new articles are written and published every single day, Monday through Friday. We'll see you there.